Hello, mathematicians. Today we're going to be learning about fractions, more specifically about ordering fractions and mixed numbers. To get us started, we have 4 over 5, 3 over 4, and 7 over 10. Now, all three of these fractions have different denominators, making it difficult to compare. So in order to compare these fractions, we have to write equivalent fractions that all have the same denominator to make it easier. In order to do that, we have to find the least common multiple between our denominators, which are 5, 4, and 10. So our multiples of 5 are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and so forth. Our multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and so forth. Our multiples of 10 are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and so forth. Now, the least common multiple is 20 because that's the smallest multiple they have in common. So, our least common multiple. Now, 20 is going to be used to help us write equivalent fractions with the denominator of 20. So, starting with 4 over 5, in order to get a denominator of 20, we have to multiply the denominator by 4. Whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator. So 4 times 4 is 16, and 5 times 4 is 20. Then we're going to move on to 3/4. In order to get a denominator of 20, we have to multiply 4 times 5. And whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator as well. So 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is equal to 15. 4 times 5 is equal to 20. Then we're going to take 7 over 10. And in order to get a denominator of 20 here, we have to multiply 10 by 2. Whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator as well. So 7 times 2. 7 times 2 is equal to 14, and 10 times 2 is equal to 20. Now we have three fractions with the same denominator. We have 16 over 20, we have 15 over 20, and we have 14 over 20. And then we're going to compare those. 14 over 20 is the smallest one, so that means that 7 over 10 is the smallest fraction when we order it in order from least to greatest. So after 14 over 20, we have 15 over 20, which is 3/4. So that fraction would come next. And then our greatest fraction here is 16 over 20, which is 4 over 5. So that fraction would come last. So that means that if we take these fractions and put them in order from least to greatest, we'll have 7 over 10 being the smallest, then 3/4, and then 4 over 5. So let's do another example. We have 2 and 5 over 12, we have 2 and 8 over 15, and we have 2 and 9 over 20. Now, all three denominators are different, and all three whole numbers are the same, so 2, 2, and 2. So we can't really compare it using the whole numbers, so we have to go based on the fractions. Now, because the denominators are different, we have to find the least common multiple between our denominators to find a denominator that we can use to write equivalent fractions to make it easier to compare. So, our multiples of 12 are 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, and so forth. Our multiples of 15 are 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90, and so forth. Our multiples of 20 are 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, and so forth. So our least common multiple here is 60 because that's the smallest multiple that these three have in common. So we're going to take our least common multiple. To help us write fractions that are equivalent to the ones that were given with a denominator of 60. So we're going to start off with 2 and 5 over 12. And in order to get a denominator of 60, we have to multiply the denominator by 5. Whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator. So we're also going to multiply the numerator by 5. Now the whole number stays the same, but for our numerator, 5 times 5 is equal to 25, and for our denominator, 12 times 5 is equal to 60. Now we're going to move on to 2 and 8 over 15. Now we want a denominator of 60, so 15 times 4 would give us 60, and whatever we do to the denominator, we must do to the numerator as well. So we're going to take 8 and multiply it by 4. Now the whole number stays the same, but 8 times 4 is equal to 32, and 15 times 4 is equal to 60. Finally, we're going to take our last fraction, which is 2 and 9 over 20. And we're also going to find an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 60. And we know that 20 times 3 is equal to 60. And whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator as well. So the whole number stays the same, which is 2. But then 9 times 3 for our numerator is 27. And 20 times 3 is 60. So we now have 2 and 25 over 60. We have 2 and 32 over 60. And 2 and 27 over 60. And that means that 2 and 25 over 60 is the smallest one. So when we write this in order from least to greatest, we're going to have 2 and 5 over 12, which is equivalent to 2 and 5 and 25 over 60. Then we're going to have 2 and 27 over 60, which is 2 and 9 over 20. And then finally, we have 2 and 32 over 60, which is 2 and 8 over 15. Next, we have 3 and 7 over 12, 3 and 3 over 8, and 1 and 5 over 6. Now, if we look at just the whole numbers, we have 3, 3, and 1, making this one automatically the smallest one, so we don't have to do any work to it. Now here for our two mixed numbers, the whole number is the same, and the denominators are different, making it harder to compare. So we do have to find equivalent fractions with the same denominator in order to compare our first two values. So we have to find the least common multiple between our denominators, which is 12 and 8. So our multiples of 12 are 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, and so forth. Our multiples of 8 are 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, and so forth. And our least common multiple here is 24 because it's the smallest multiple they have in common. And so that means our denominators are going to be 24. So we're going to start off with 3 and 7 over 12. And in order to get a denominator of 24, we have to multiply 12 by 2. Whatever we do to the denominator, we must do to the numerator. The whole number stays the same, but for our numerator, 7 times 2 is equal to 14. And then for our denominator, 12 times 2 is equal to 24. Then we're going to move on to 3/8. In order to get a denominator of 24, we have to multiply 8 by 3. Whatever we do to the denominator, we must do to the numerator. So we're also going to multiply our numerator by 3. Now the whole number stays the same, but for our numerator, 3 times 3, that's equal to 9. And for our denominator, 8 times 3, that's equal to 24. Then we're going to take 1 and 5 over 6 and just rewrite it because we know this is the smallest one, so we don't have to do anything to it. So when we order our numbers in order from least to greatest, 1 and 5 over 6 is going to come first. Then we have 3 and 14 over 24, and 3 and 9 over 24, making this one smaller. So our next value is going to be 3 and 3 over 8. And finally, we have 3 and 7 over 12. So let's do our final example. We have 8 over 9, 5 over 6, and 5 and 9 over 13. Now, this one is our only mixed number and the only one that has a whole. So this one is automatically our largest number because 8 over 9 and 5 over 6 aren't even a whole. So we're only going to have to take 8 over 9 and 5 over 6 and compare them because we know our last value is the largest. So in order to do that, they have different denominators, so we have to find the least common multiple. So our multiples of 9 are 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, and so forth. Our multiples of 6 are 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, and so forth. And our least common multiple is 18, and that's because it's the smallest multiple they have in common. So we're going to take our fractions and make sure they have a denominator of 18. Starting with 8 over 9, in order to get a denominator of 18, we have to multiply 9 by 2. Whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator. So 8 times 2 is equal to 16. 9 times 2 is equal to 18. Then we're going to bring down 5 over 6. In order to get a denominator of 18, we have to multiply 6 by 3. Whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator as well. So also multiply 5 by 3. 5 times 3 is equal to 15. 6 times 3 is equal to 18. And then we'll rewrite our final value. So we know this is the largest. So then we have to look at 16 over 18 and 15 over 18, making this one the smallest. So if we write our numbers in order from least to greatest, 5 over 6 will come first, and then 8 over 9, and finally 5 and 9 over 13. And that's it for ordering fractions and mixed numbers.